I've always known that I was gay.
Mm-hmm.
And in roughly 1971, on the cover of, I guess it was Life magazine, there was one of the first gay pride parades, and somebody was holding up a placard saying, "My son is gay and I'm proud of them."
Mm-hmm.
And my heart sunk. I knew that there was something devious and gross about that, but somehow I was related to that placard, and I just didn't understand it for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow I knew that that placard was speaking to me. Long transition for me.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, spending most of my time hating being gay after having realized this is not just a phase that I'm going through. And there were these punctuated moments that kind of pushed me to moments of, oh, actually I am proud of not necessarily being gay. It's really being proud of the integrated human that I am. And being gay is just one aspect of that, I think. So, where in college, one of the people in my group said, "Oh, when did you look in the mirror and say, gosh, I'm Sally and I love myself?"
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in my little clique had an answer for that, except for me. What? You guys actually love yourselves?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell?
Yeah.
That never even dawned on me to love myself. So that was like one of those epiphany moments. Well, there were, one boyfriend who dumped me, and I was terribly codependent at that point, and that sort of forced me at that point, which was I had one foot in the gay door, one foot out, and wanting to be straight, and that sort of forced me to confront, you know what, this really is who I am. I'm going to stop going and seeing a psychologist. I really am just going to be this and see how I am as a gay man. And that lifted a huge, huge weight off of my shoulders.
Mm-hmm. And when was this?
In graduate school. So I was in my mid-20s at that point, where I really embraced, you know what, I can stop going to see a shrink because there's nothing wrong with me. If I were brought up in a completely different society where people weren't telling me that there's something wrong with me, I wouldn't think there's something wrong with me. There is nothing wrong with me. I'm a perfectly fine, well-integrated person.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that was kind of one of those moments.
Yeah.
Sure. So, in fact, that might have been one of those transition moments for me, in that, yes, I'm trained as a molecular biologist, biochemist, and I spend an awful lot of my time reading science papers. And for graduate school, or in graduate school, so this was the late 80s, this was all happening, the gay plague was happening, and we didn't even know what the infectious organism was at that point. So there were all of these papers coming out of why are these gay men catching these strange autoimmune diseases and dying of it. And it took us, there were crazy ideas about what was causing it. And I remember reading all of them and being scared. If I start to really become a gay man and really become sexually active, if I do any one of these things, then I necessarily am going to not become HIV positive, because we didn't know that that's what it was. I'm going to get this whatever gay plague is. And one of the things was, semen in the rectum is causing immune disturbances, and so you really, really shouldn't do that. Oh my God. Okay. Well. Okay. So now here I am reading all of these papers, getting more and more scared. There are no drugs for years and years and years. And they came up with AZT, and AZT was saving lives, but it had terrible side effects. And of course, that ended up, you could tell the people who were on AZT because they had lots of physical characteristics that you could immediately identify. And then those people became stigmatized for what they looked like. But gradually, as the drugs came out, it became sort of more interesting that, oh my gosh, people are surviving this. And the interesting thing that a group called ACT UP did was they changed the way the whole FDA operates. And at the time, me being in the closet, I wasn't thrilled about how in-your-face ACT UP was. Their whole contention was, look, we're dying. I want to take these experimental HIV drugs that you are giving. Okay, so the way the FDA worked at the time was you give a little teeny dose of a medication to a healthy person, a little more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and eventually you work yourself up to giving it to an actual patient. And these HIV patients were saying, look, I'm dying. I don't give a shit what side effects. I want to live. Test it on me, and if it works, great. If not, well, then we've learned something and I've made my contribution. Okay, well, that has now changed the whole way that the FDA thinks. So, in fact, we can now go into cancer patients, as an example, in a phase 1 clinical study where the patients have failed first, second, third line of traditional therapy and give them an experimental drug in a phase 1 clinical trial. And so it buys some real hope.
So it started back then with the HIV, probably.
Not probably, definitely. They changed the way the FDA operates.
Yeah, so, in many respects, we owe a lot to the previous decades, the generation that tried those drugs and have we have today.
Sacrificed their lives for, yeah.
Yeah, so there was a lot of side effects, as I know.
They didn't care. They wanted to live. They were taking anything they possibly could.
Yeah.
People were scared.
Yeah, so you lost quite a bit of friends to the epidemic?
I did. You're maybe getting a little bit of a sense that I was pretty cautious and so not particularly promiscuous, and I think that's probably what saved me. At one point it was like every weekend we were going to a funeral, and it became so maudlin and sad that we were just, okay, we can't take this. We can't take this anymore. I can't go to a funeral. Let's turn this into a roast. So, and I can remember the very first time we did this was for a friend of mine, Fritz Allman, and
it's okay.
And it seemed really inconceivable to get up with a dead man laying there and roast the fuck out of him. But we were all laughing. And I can remember the first line of my eulogy, which was just sort of extemporized, that Fritz was a bitch. And just say that one line. And Fritz was a bitch, but in the best way possible. You'd never say that for somebody's eulogy. And it kind of changed everything around. It became difficult.
That's just the times have changed, and it's important to recognize this cohesive effort from everybody.
Yeah.
So if you can get advice to someone from other parts of the country or the world where being gay is still completely unaccepted, and they want to come out and they're having a hard time, what advice would you give them?
Well, that's a really tough question. My usual stock answer, at least within the country, and this was before any sort of gay laws or even after, because even though we have the legality of gay marriage in the United States now, there's all of everybody's cultural family issues, so that I'm surprised at the number of young people and millennials who won't show their face or who won't come out at all, and it's just because of their family network and whatever. My usual advice has always been, don't come out until you are ready to lose your parents.
Interesting.
If you feel that you are comfortable enough, then go ahead, because they're an unknown quantity, and if you think that you can stand on your own feet without your parents, then fine, because it may happen. I just don't know. You don't know, really. You think you know your parents, but you don't know.
Interesting.
That doesn't apply within countries outside of our laws. I don't even know how to speak. I'm not even going to speak about what somebody's supposed to do in Iran.
Yeah, that's great. Very good answer. Thank you.